Hello again. We have been talking about money and budgeting, and now we're going to get into the fine details of looking at your paycheck, understanding what your paycheck is all about when it comes to the deductions, and then taking a look at those common bills that you have throughout the month when you're living out on your own. Um, excuse me. So we're into money matters and we're taking a look at financial literacy. So when you open this up, you get to this activity here, and um, there are some great interactive games to familiarize yourself with some of the basics of financial literacy. I really, really recommend that you click on this. I must admit, I did saving for school because, of course, I'm doing that right now for my two children, and I actually learned a lot about some of the ins and outs of the registered education funds that I didn't know before. So I would suggest to try as many of these as possible. There's lots and lots of great things that most people don't discover until late in life, and unfortunately, by then you've really missed out on some great investment opportunities. The second thing here doesn't seem to work when I click on it. This comes up, but nothing seems to happen. So we'll just skip right over that. Um, this section here is a good overall discussion about millennials and how they quite often have a different mindset when it comes to um, finances compared to my generation, for instance. One thing we've all discovered recently is that we're forced to do a lot of online shopping, and this gets a lot of people into trouble because, like they say here, digital dollars are still dollars. So people spend online, the money goes onto a credit card. There's no exchanging of cash coming out of your wallet and into the hands of the merchant, and as a result, it's easy to overspend. So it's a good article to read over. Um, I talk about this in my other course about how expensive it is to raise children in Canada. You would not believe the amount of costs, and they say upwards of $200,000 to raise a child up to the age of 18. So certainly something to consider later on in life when you're thinking about having children. How financially secure are you before you make that big step of being a parent? Lots of other resources here that are worth looking into. One key thing, a lot of people never bother getting any sort of will made out. I know it's sort of a icky sort of subject, but um, having a will is something that you should have as soon as you turn 18, just so that people know what your wishes are. So we're not going to do this discussion. So we're going to move on to understanding your paycheck. And um, there's a couple of calculations here. If you're working just straight regular hours, you're working 36 hours at 1185. You just take this and multiply by that. That tells you your gross income. But it gets more complicated with different types of work places. There's what we call piecemeal work, which means you get paid by the item that you produce. So, for instance, if you're working in clothing manufacturing, assembling toys, whatever, they pay you by the thing that you produce. So, in this case, 1,975 toys were produced. You get 35 cents a toy. So, you take 35 cents and multiply it by this, and that's the amount of money that you make. Whereas commissions, um, if you sell a certain amount of goods, like for instance, if you're a car salesperson, you get paid 2.5%. So you'd have to change that over to a decimal, 0.25, to multiply it by 17,654 to figure out the correct answer. So just click here and I'll tell you how to calculate that. So in this chart, you're looking at what is the actual total pay. So if you're working a 40-hour normal work week. Anything beyond that is overtime. What you want to do is go, all right, well, you have 40 hours at 11.50, but then you have 6 hours at a time and a half. So you'd have to figure out what 11.50 times 1.5. So you're making $17.25 an hour for overtime. And you'd multiply that by 6 because you've worked 6 hours beyond the 40. And that will calculate your overtime pay. And then when you add those two together, that tells you what your gross pay is. Oops, there we are. So go through that. You will not be submitting that. That's just for practice. And then they start talking about all the things that you have to pay for off your paycheck. So, you know, it's always exciting to go, oh, yeah, I'm going to get paid, all this money. I've worked 40 hours. I get paid, $20 an hour or something on that line. But you would not believe the amount of deductions. Don't forget those deductions pay for good things, like, for instance, your Canada pension plan. That's so you can retire when you get older, or your dental insurance, so that if you do get an infected tooth or something along that line, you're not paying a fortune in order to get it fixed. So it's frustrating to see these things come off, but quite often they are going towards really good things. So this shows you how to sort of decode your pay stub, because there's a lot of stuff on here. So just as you click on the different terms, it shows you whereabouts you find that on the on the pay stub. So now into actually working with some data. So they said use this check register. I'm going to post on the website this spreadsheet instead. This is a PDF document, which isn't any good. So use it instead. So what you're going to do is keep track of all your transactions. So it's a real pain in the butt, but I do this all the time. I have my own software that I purchased, and I keep track of every transaction that our family makes. So that I know if there's been a mistake that's been made. I know that my dentist made a mistake, that they overcharged me by about $400. I also have, it's difficult to save any money if you have no idea where the money is going. So what you're going to do is start off with $945 and change here. That's your starting balance. And then what you're going to do is record any checks or any bills that you're paying. So electronic bill payment, that's not a check. So that wouldn't have a check number. It would just go in as the date, the description, transaction amount. And in order to calculate your new balance, since it's a spreadsheet, you can just use the calculator function within there. If you hit the plus button and then go, all right, I want this number, and because this is money that's been spent, we want to subtract by 50. So I go over there and then I hit enter, and it automatically calculates it for me. So if I had a deposit, let's say I've got $250 that I'm depositing, then I go plus, take my previous balance, and I go plus again because I'm adding money because this is a deposit. Go over to the 250 and hit enter, and voila. It automatically calculates it for me. So it's, take advantage of the spreadsheet functions so that it's easier for you. So eventually you're going to submit this to me. So make sure that you click on share and get a shareable link, and you send that in to me. Okay. Don't just copy this up here because otherwise it won't work. All right. So, and when you open this document, you won't be able to edit it. So you're going to have to go File, Make a Copy. And when you make a copy, then you'll have a version that you can edit. So you go through, you do all of these calculations. You're going to complete a check. All right. So take a picture with your camera and send that picture to me. Then you've got to double check to make sure that there isn't any mistakes. You're going to look at your bank account here and then check off each thing. So you might want to just put it in red to say that it's been reconciled. So it's like, oh, yeah, anything that's in red matches up with something on here. And anything that doesn't match up, you might color in a different color. I don't know, purple or something along that line. Maybe that's not so obvious. Maybe blue. Um, so that you know that, oh, wait a sec, there's something on here that I didn't take account of in here. All right. So just going to get rid of this formatting here. So at the end, you're going to give me that check register. That's that spreadsheet, a picture of the completed check, and the answers to all these questions. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Good luck.